Angry MGTOW here. I'm here with Edindro, and we're discussing how free speech is dying in the West because of feminist white women. All right, so the free speech is dying in the West, and I'll go ahead and discuss an article. We're looking at an article from Zero Edge, and the article is essentially explaining why feminism is dying in the West, how feminism is dying in the West, and it's not cool. It's pretty fucked up. It's a real mess right now, and we have to talk about it because it's pretty severe. It's a pretty severe thing. Let me go ahead and see if I can share this. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
I'm ready, Professor.
Haha. So let's just go ahead and do that. What's that? All right. So the death of free speech in the West is happening. And it's happening in a couple of things. For one, the West has catapulted on free speech of expression, freedom of expression. Nobody in the West launched the motto "Jesus Avid Roy," the name of the first of several bloggers butchered, flogged, or jailed last year for criticizing Islam. Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel sided with the Turks. She condemned the German comedian's poem, called it a deliberate insult, then approved the filing of criminal charges against him for insulting the Turkish president. So I'm not going to go through this entire article because I think we get the point. But we're seeing other things, other instances of where feminism has gone astray. Another great example of how feminism has gone astray can be seen on college campuses, and how, Milo Yiannopoulos has been literally kicked out of UC Berkeley, violence that is happening, or the Not My President marches.
Kicked out. They threw Molotov cocktails through the window of the building he was in. They were trying to kill him. They were trying to fucking kill him.
Okay, so correction.
He was evacuated.
Evacuated. I mean, it's literally going over the top. And, I was talking with Ed Reese. I'm talking with Ed, and I was looking for topics that didn't really have anything to do with feminism.
Impossible.
And it's so crazy today. Like, oh, well, let's talk about what's happening in Sweden. Well, that's kind of related to feminism. Let's talk about globalism. Globalism is a vehicle for feminism. Let's talk about Brexit. Well, that was caused by the migrant crisis, really. That's what happened over there. And that's being perpetuated by feminism. It's like a lot of things are related. Almost everything is related to the feminist agenda these days, the chaos that they've caused. And free speech is one of those things that is essentially that they're trying to censor. If you look at Twitter right now, Twitter is actually actively censoring people who say things they don't like, giving them 12-hour timeouts for using speech that they say is offensive.
Yeah. Free speech is I'm echoing, fucker.
Yeah, that's you.
No, it's not.
Okay. Oh, let's try it.
All right. It's definitely you. Ruined. The whole stream's ruined. You piece of shit.
Okay, so I just pumped up the broadband. That should be better.
I think free speech is one of the pivotal, the key problems that we have today. And I think we watched well, actually, the video I did with Bering, the Steve, I didn't do it with Bering, he stole it. The video Bering hijacked, the Steve Shives video, was such a perfect example of don't give people platforms if the argument is over, quote unquote over, and we dictate that the argument is over. Canada has I forget the name of the bill, but the one Jordan Peterson was rolling on, C-19.
I don't remember the name of the bill, but it's at the University of Toronto.
Yeah, so the bill was I don't know what the state of it is. I'd have to go back and look, but the bill is basically for compelled speech to basically to force people to use correct gender pronouns, things like that. And the arguments you see against that, and I know you and that girl with an opinion had a tiff, to say the least. But She did a video on the Christy Winters stream where Christy Winter, you know, and we all know her, right? Do we all know Christy Winters? Because fuck. She was talking about free speech in such a broken way, it expresses like this woman is has a doctorate, right? She's a professor. This is her career. And she expressed that she believes that in refusing this bill and not calling people by their preferred pronouns, you are violating their freedom of expression by not being forced to use that word. So the irony is that she's arguing for compelled speech against the person in order to protect the free speech of the person who is harmed physically by the misgendering of oneself. And that's another thing. They redefine harm and fucking violence in ways that are baffling. Fucking baffling. Like Angry MGTOW, if I call you a girl right now, and I say, you're a little girl. And I say, how you doing, little girl? How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not a little girl.
You're not happy about that, right? That's a fucking dick move. That's a shitty thing for me to say. But it's free speech. I can call you whatever stupid thing I want, and you can call me an asshole and tell me to go fuck myself. But like, the idea that I just caused you harm.
Oh gosh.
I can't wrap my fucking brain around that kind of weakness, and then that kind of weakness from people who purport themselves to be pillars of strength. You know, the example of feminine strength. You know, hilarious.
You know, they're saying that Dr. Christy Winters debates Sargon of Akkad. Spoiler alert: he loses.
Sargon of Akkad.
They're saying that he actually lost.
They both lost. It was a bad debate. It was hard to watch.
I mean, what exactly happened? How did he lose the debate? I mean, you'd think that would be pretty straightforward.
He lost his shit. He just lost his shit. And I don't blame him because she's an infuriating woman. She's... if you want to hate women, spend some time with her. You will. Like if you will start to. She's just a horrible, condescending, incapable of basic law, either incapable or unwilling. And he blew up on her. Like, it's entertaining to watch him blow up, but I mean, I would say they both lost that debate.
I can understand.
It was garbage.
It can be difficult to talk to some of these people sometimes because, you know, you're dealing with them and they just spout so much nonsense. You just lose it at some point and say, you know what, fuck you.
Dude, I lost it on a video response to her. I could have edited it out, but I couldn't. Like, I couldn't because it was the right natural response. It was just to yell, just to scream at her. Just to call her a fucking moron, you know? There are some people who are so emotionally driven that they just cannot see. They just can't see the clouds through the trees. Is that the expression?
Yeah. I mean, it's a downright, it's a problem, and it's something that we just have to kind of look at and see that it is happening. The idea of actually using gender pronouns is downright ridiculous. But in New York, for example, they passed a resolve like last year saying that you legally cannot discriminate against something like these specific 73 genders or 76 genders. In reality, there's 74. It's 74 mental illnesses. Let's make it
maybe, but you know what? Misgendering isn't discrimination. I don't understand. Isn't sex is already a protected class? Sex, gender, that's gender. So it's already there, right? So I mean, being nice is good for you. You know, you don't want to get marched into HR because you're a dick to your coworker. I mean, companies can have their own policies, but to mark this by law is that, I mean, it's tyrannical. It's authoritarian. Like, by the letter, it's authoritarian, and they are actively promoting authoritarian law. It's scary. And you talk about hate speech. What the fuck is that? But Canada has hate speech laws. Plenty of places in Europe have hate speech laws. Holocaust denial is illegal in Germany and other parts of Europe. So I think even parts of Canada it used to be before they drew it back. Like, I don't like Holocaust denial. I think it's absurd. But like, prison, really?
I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, essentially, if you don't agree with them, if you don't follow their narrative, then you're go to jail. I mean, literally, these liberals are essentially fighting for censorship. And it's funny because, again, I forgot who said it, but the saying goes, you know, those who would sacrifice freedom for security deserve neither. And I remember there's like, I saw this illustration once where this person kept complaining about how unsafe they felt. And then they found themselves in a jail cell, and the guard said, "Do you feel safe now?" You know, I mean, seriously, honestly, I think that's where all liberals need to be. They need to be locked away into their safe spaces and kept away from everyone else, because they've absolutely lost it. And to be honest with you, shit is, you know, the millennials are in such bad shape right now that when you think about where we're headed, I mean, the fact that we literally have to become the doctors. We have to be the doctors. We have to be the engineers. We have to be the people who take up these jobs as the baby boomers are retiring and moving. And the fact that we are not able to handle basic life, communication is another major thing. For example, that's one of the biggest problems millennials have right now is basic communication. We have a hard time communicating, and then we have a really hard time controlling our emotions. You can see literally like how
the internet really fucked us. And I think people yours and my age, we can kind of see that because we came in at the tail end, or at the beginning. Well, the tail end of the old era and the beginning of the new.
Yeah, we're like close. We're like cuspers. We're literally the cuspers. Like we're right on that Generation X tail end, so we still have some common sense.
I consider myself Generation X. The young millennials are just too far gone. They're too different.
It's like
they're too fucking fucked up. I relate more to the generation before me, and if I'm on the cusp, I choose to go backwards a little bit because I mean, we're lucky. We're a little bit lucky. We've escaped a lot. We've escaped a lot. Can you imagine being in college right now? Can you imagine coping with that? Like, the confusion, the deliberate confusion, not just to men but to women too, but mostly men. And God, I'm so happy I'm fucking 34 right now. I mean, I'm happy I'm older. But like, I mean, you think of things like that you never thought you would see before. Gregory Allen Elliott, you know of that, right?
Gregory Allen Elliott. I mean, I don't.
The Twitter hate speech case, the Twitter harassment case, Twitter for words on Twitter.
You're talking about the guy in Canada who basically disagreed with the feminists?
Yes, Canada is terrifying to me right now.
You know something funny about that guy though?
He's a prick.
Yeah, he was like a male feminist. He was like a male feminist himself, and he was like essentially agreeing with her. And then basically he disagreed on like one point, and she called it harassment. However,
he disagreed. Yeah, he disagreed heavily on the point that she basically doxed in a way, or wrote, told everybody, no local newspaper for this kid who did the Anita Sarkeesian beat up game, who was like 19. Just this guy, this dumb kid who made that game and tried to ruin his life. And she bragged about it, and he went online and said, "That's fucked up. You're the one harassing this kid. Obviously, you're the one harassing him. You went to his job. You tried to fuck up his life. You're the one harassing this kid." And then they had a big falling out, and he ended up in jail for it. In jail for tweets.
Funny
if that ever happened.
You know what? Funny enough, though, the charges were dismissed last year, back in January of 2000.
After 3 fucking years of being dragged through the system, of 3 fucking years of being banned from the internet. His livelihood is on the internet, so he couldn't make his money the way he would. I mean, you ruin a man's life and then you find him innocent. Well, that's great. Thanks. I've lost 3 years of my life anyway.
You know what's interesting? It's funny how these companies are operating. Like, for example, Twitter has said that they would block Donald Trump if he breaks their policies. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys are essentially communists. In other words, you would censor the president of the United States. Who do you think is running the country right now? These people, they would rather the country completely collapse and burn. They're the ones who are going to destroy the country.
I don't know if that's communism, but it's
Marxism. These Marxists.
Well, I mean, what they're doing is it's called, I don't know. I think it's treasonous, but yeah, and then the misuse, the mislabeling of the term fascist, the mislabeling of the term Nazi. They just don't. It's not just about free speech. It's about adherence to language. just basic fucking adherence to language. It's that Orwellian newspeak thing we talk about all the fucking time. You can't just change the meaning of words and then apply that meaning. And it's led to a lot of confusion. You ever talk to like an academic feminist? Because they're a different breed. They make a more convincing case, and they're horribly wrong, but they make a more convincing case, and they'll try to tell you, oh, what we mean by white supremacy is we mean a white majority, and we're talking about implicit biases, and they'll make a case that sounds intellectual, but really what it is saying, first of all, it's wrong in more detail. It's too much of a whitewashing of complicated issues, and I'm not arguing that implicit bias doesn't exist or anything like that, but it's simply assuming things about racism, assuming bigotry in areas that we can't say exist, and thus, ultimately painting individuals and ruining individuals based on this assumption. So that's awful. But at the same time, it's this manipulation of that speech. We know white supremacy to mean white supremacy, to mean that I am pure as a white man. I am a white man, and everything not white is inferior to me. It's racism. That's what white supremacy is, right? Basically. When you talk about white nationalism, we know that white nationalism means this America is for white people and white people only, and all the non-whites need to leave. We need racial purity in America. But they don't use these words in the same way. They change them, and they confuse everybody. And they spread this fear that there's some kind of systemic racist system, and that's the manipulation of language. So free speech is one issue, but there's also fucking adherence to to what fucking words mean. So I'm being a little I'm being a little ranty, but this whole thing just bothers me. So anyway, just say something. Fuck you.
I mean, really, that's absolutely there. It's funny because as soon as they disagree with you, they basically call you a racist. They basically call you a white supremacist. I was reading an interesting article. It was there's the echo back. Oh well, I was reading an interesting article where a black guy criticized. It was written by a black guy a black journalist who criticized Barack Obama, and then he was accused of racism for criticizing Barack Obama. And he basically said that this is the environment that we've created, where a black man who criticizes the first black president is now being called a racist. And this seems to make sense to people.
Yeah, internalized racism, right? Self-hating black people. And you know what? Yeah, see, let's do that. Isn't that fun? Let's apply that label to people arbitrarily. Let's do a woman who says "fuck feminism." I'm supporting men's rights. The honey badgers or whatever, they say fuck this shit. And you know what they call them? They call them self-hating women. They apply self-hatred arbitrarily to people they don't know because they're not saying the right things. So, I mean, we have gone from free speech to everything, and I have in a tangent, but
there's some other things going on. Go ahead, finish.
I was looking at Orwell's. I love George Orwell on the language thing, the politics of the English language. I'm trying to see here. An effect can become a cause, reinforcing the original cause and producing the same effect in an intensified form, and so on indefinitely. A man may take to drink because he himself feels to be a failure, and then fail all the more completely because he drinks. So he says that's the same thing for language. He says it becomes ugly and inaccurate because our thoughts are foolish, but the Slavinness of our language makes it easier for us to have foolish thoughts. So the dumber the fucking language gets, the dumber we become. It's a self-perpetuating thing, and he says it's a spiral that it is almost irreversible. So I mean, it's the path that we're going down, is that we are watering down our language, we are misdirecting, we are restricting, of course. So that's what we're supposed to be talking about, but this to me is almost worse, because we're redefining things. They've redefined feminism like 400 times within the past couple of years. So I mean, feminism itself isn't a static definition anymore. So they continue to dilute the language, and in doing so, it's easier to be mistaken, it's easier to be foolish, it's easier to be reckless, and then that cycle continues. So basically, the language gets dumber, and we get dumber, and the language gets dumber, and we get dumber, and the language gets dumber, and we get dumber, and eventually we're idiocracy. You know, language is so fucking important to the conversations that we have, and that's why I like this talk.
You can see you can see that we're dumbing down the language through the use of Facebook and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
We literally went from talking to literally typing and using symbols.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't. We talk to each other on Twitter, full sentences. Then you have a conversation with a feminist because you're a prick like me, and I do that. I engage with women all the time. I engage with them all the time. It's fucking.
It's funny. Sometimes I talk to the younger millennials, and they send me things with just letters and pictures, and I'm like, I'm trying to decipher it. I have to go to Urban Dictionary to what's the meaning of this?
And then you feel like an asshole. You feel like you're too old, and you're only in your 30s. You're like, why do I feel so old?
I feel why didn't you just use the fucking words, you little shit? I'll tell you something. My little brother, he was having an argument with this girl, and he did some Twitter thing, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And he goes, it's 2016. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
It's fucking well, I mean, it's the reason I do my videos is by the way, I dated a feminist. That was one of the reasons I really got into it. That's a whole story.
You dated a feminist?
Yep.
Okay, so that's gonna be another. That's a story. Hold on, I want to hear about that. So, guys, if you like the video and you
oh, you fucking asshole, you keep.
If you agree that free speech is dying in the West because feminists fight, let me know what you think in the comments section. Also, don't forget to check out Ed's channel. It'll be linked in the description. Like, share, subscribe, and if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all rolls.
We'll see you in 10 minutes.
Cheers.